Hello everybody and welcome to the Aftermath. This one is for ONE FC on TNT 1. So there are two fights I'm going to cover today. The two that are the most discussed. First of all, we'll start with the Eddie Alvarez one, which was a rather unfortunate situation because, we all wanted to see that fight. We all want to see Eddie fight. He's a very exciting fighter. So I'll cover that one. Then I'll move on to the DJ Adriano Moraes fight, which was also... Well, it was an upset, wasn't it? Because obviously most people thought DJ was going to win that. So, okay, let's just get straight into it. Right. So, of course, Eddie had a slight height disadvantage going into this one. But, of course, he's got the wrestling that backs that up. So that's what we saw in the opening of the fight. Now I've just left this in just so there's nothing been taken out of it, so we get to see exactly what happens. I mean, the fight had only just started, but you could see Lapicus was kind of hanging back and Eddie was pressuring forward. He was like feinting, he kept like kind of lowering his level a little bit to insinuate that a takedown might be coming. Lapicus starts to invest in low kicks, and that one stings Eddie. Eddie tries to return and misses, and then we get a takedown. Nicely timed, like feints a couple of times because he knows counters are coming, then shoots in, level changes, and he's in on the legs. Okay, this is the first thing that Eddie does, which is really nice. So as you can see here, Lapicus has got 2 points of contact on the mat. He's got this hand in the background here, and then he's got this foot in the foreground. So there are 2 points which Eddie needs to work now to break him down to the canvas. He's got control of his hip on this side because he's got a hook. He's hooked that around the back of the leg. He's kind of got a hold of his ass cheek, almost reaching back towards his own stomach. Would Eddie be with his hand? I mean, we can't quite see it, but his hand will be around there. The other side, his right arm is hooked around the left leg of Lapicus. So you can see Eddie's got a good control position here, but he needs to remove one of these other bases to lower his opponent down. And he does what he does is really nice. He actually brings this knee over. He actually brings this knee over to the other side and collapses his base with that. So that's what we're going to see now. He comes around the side of the leg, drops his knee to the canvas, and then using the weight of his hips onto the side of Lapicus's leg, basically nullifies this foot here. You can see now there's not much weight going through that foot. There's very little he can do with it. And then Eddie scoops it to the side to flatten him out. Now he's got control of both legs. And then we're going to see him use the nice little cinch-up that we see a lot of the guys, the leg irons that Khabib and a lot of other guys are very good at these days. Ties his legs up here. So he's got an underhook on the far side, and he's got his legs bound up, and he's pressuring in. You can see the direction of his hips. He's pressuring in from this direction, which is going into the side of Lapicus's knee. So he's in a very difficult position as well. He's kind of awkwardly caught up against the fence with his head turned towards his overhook. And Eddie's driving into him and laying his body weight on top of him to make it a very difficult position for Lapicus to move. So there's little that can be done here. And Eddie's got one spare hand. Now, from here you can see Lapicus he's driving up on the underside of Eddie's chin. The reason he's doing this is to try and alleviate some of the pressure that Eddie's creating with his head towards Lapicus. He's driving his head into the fence here to keep Lapicus in that position. And what Lapicus wants to do is to create a bit of space so he can bring his head from where it is to the inside so he can start to work up and, maybe use that overhook, free a leg. He's in a twisted position at the moment. You can see this foot's facing this way. His hips are facing this way. His shoulders and his head are facing the opposite way. So that kind of zigzag cross that Eddie's got him tied up in is nullifying a lot of his movement. Okay, so this is where it kind of gets a bit chaotic because Eddie's got him tied up here, and he's in a position where he can land punches, but they're in a very precarious position. Now the referee leans in a moment and warns him about these being the back of the head, and it's almost like Eddie kind of doubles down on the fact that it's not an illegal shot and goes to town. But the problem is, as soon as the referee warns him again about the back of the head, immediately then Lapicus starts to play up to it. Now, this is where it gets frustrating. Because we can all see that Lapicus is playing up to the referee here. We know that he's not that hurt. For a start, he's holding the wrong side of his head. He was hit on this side of his head, and he's now holding the other side. So this is what frustrates people and what gets people very animated about the decision that the referee made to disqualify Eddie. The unfortunate reality is that the target area was illegal. They were illegal shots. The fact that his opponent was turning his head away doesn't make those shots any less illegal. You know, if I start a fight and I walk out with the back of my head and my spine towards my opponent, Genki Sudo style, and they blast me in the back of the head, that's still their fault because they're targeting an area which is an illegal shot. It's the same situation as we had with Peter Yan and Aljamain Sterling. That was a clear illegal shot because they are the rules, and he was down on a knee, so he was classed as a down opponent, so the shot was illegal. Peter Yan as the champion should have known that, so the disqualification made sense there. The people were frustrated about that because people were feeling like Aljamain was playing up to it because he's caught in a situation where he's going to get disqualified and I'm going to get the belt, or I'm going to have to continue being impaired and probably lose the fight, which, let's be honest, it was already starting to slip away from him at that point. So it puts the fighter in an awkward position. Now, we all know what's going on here. We know Lapicus is playing up to this. We know that he's not actually this hurt. We also knew that Aljamain Sterling wasn't that hurt. Darren Stewart, same situation with Eric Anders. It was an illegal knee. There's no such thing as baiting an opponent. You could say the same thing in this scenario. Lapicus was baiting Eddie to punch him in the back of the head. It makes no difference. Even if that was the case, which is just a silly concept, it's still an illegal thing to do. You know, just like, you know, European football, soccer, you can bait someone to be offside when they receive the ball. You know, this is played all the time. And, you know, if you don't understand the offside rule when you're playing, someone's going to probably try and catch you out with that, you know, especially as you start progressing through the levels. Like we're talking the highest level of combat sports here. We all need to be on point with what we're seeing. So, right, let's just get into the replay so you can see what I'm saying about these shots being illegal. Now, first of all, let's identify the striking area. I'll draw this on the screen. Hang on, let me see if I can find a better screen. No, I'll use that spot where it was. Okay, so that's the back of somebody's head. That's one ear. That's the other ear. There's the neck. Okay. So striking to the back of the head is anything below the ears, right? So there's the ears. So this area here, now we talk about the mohawk. The mohawk doesn't extend to the top of the head. This is all legal. This is all legal striking target. The area that's illegal to strike is here. Now that's the illegal spot. The only reason that these areas on either side of that are legal is if the glove is catching the ear. Now, in this scenario, that just wasn't the case. Let me clear all this. In this scenario, that wasn't the case because, as you can see, even from here, I know it's a bit of an awkward angle, you can see that Lapicus's ear is basically on Eddie's cheek. And in order for Eddie to catch the ear at all, he's going to have to somehow get around this hand that's pushing on his chin. So that is not a shot where he's hitting ear at all. I mean, that is pretty much targeting top of the neck, base of the skull, which is an illegal area to strike, and there's a reason for this. Now, I'll tell you a quick little story. I had a fight once at Cage Warriors, and I walked out to touch gloves with my opponent, and he walked out to do the same thing. And he swung over the top, hit me with a shot, took me down. And as I was scrambling back up to my feet against the fence, he started to elbow me in the back of the head and the neck. Now, I fought into the second round. I don't remember anything from that point onwards. That was the point where my memory of the fight ended, and I only know what happened because I've seen the video. For probably 3 or 4 months after that fight, I had numbness in the whole side of my face. I kept biting the inside of my cheek. Oftentimes I would bite my cheek to the point where it would bleed when I was eating, and that's how I would know I was doing it. It was weird because it was like the whole side of my face was just numb. It was just and I had damaged nerves in the back of my neck, and fortunately it was swelling that had caused the numbness. And after a few months it kind of came back. But the reason that area is illegal is because it's such a vulnerable area. the whole body relies on that area to run the whole body, and it's not encased in bone like the brain is. So it's a vulnerable area, and that's why we watch out for it. Now, if you're catching the side of the ear, to an extent, you're still catching some of the head. But as soon as it goes back up onto the back of the skull here, this is where it gets dangerous. And it's unfortunate because Eddie was in a situation where he didn't have many other targets. I mean, that's the target that would have been easier for him to work, but it may have been a balance thing why he was thrown to the head. But as you can see here, like there's no way he can catch Lapicus's ear with the punch without him punching himself in the face at the same time. And this hand is still problematic as well. That's still right in the way. The other thing I'm watching out for as well, and this is something that if you can watch this fight, get it up on YouTube, slow it down, zoom in, turn the brightness up on your screen. What we're looking for is this area just here. When you see the impact hit, when you see the glove hit, you'll see that almost like a flash of whiteness because the blood in the area has been forced out the skin because of impact, the compression from the glove against the skull. So that area is squeezed, which it flashes white, just like it would if you pressed your hand and then took it away. You get like a white spot where the fingertip was, the pressure was. So that's what you see in this area. As the punch lands, you see like a white flash. And I mean, that just there was, let me just zoom back into that. Like that, it's unfortunate, and I hate to say it because I love Eddie and I want him to be successful, but they are illegal shots. Like there's nothing you can't argue with that. There's no ear being caught there. He would have had to either punched himself in the face or punched the back of Lapicus's hand in order to catch the back of the ear. So at this point, the referee leans in and he's like, watch the back of the head. He takes a couple more, and then Lapicus plays into the narrative that he's been hit to the back of the head and hurt. And the reality is, just like Aljamain Sterling, I think if he was feeling fresh, if that was the first round, I think he would have probably continued. I don't think he was particularly hurt from the knee, but he was put in a situation where he had to kind of play up to the rules a little bit in order to get the result that was fair to him. I'm not saying it was unfair for him to get the belt through disqualification. But Peter Yan, as the champion, should know the rules. And it's the same situation with Eddie here. I get the point of arguing the target, the area that you're aiming for, but you can see there is no argument here. This was a mistake that Eddie made that he paid for by getting disqualified. And any kind of confusion around the rules, any kind of confusion around these rules, this is where we need to zero down. I'm not in any way, I mean, it was the right outcome, the disqualification. And I mean, obviously it's frustrating for Eddie. We saw how emotional he was, as a result of the decision. But this is where the clarity of the rules has to be understood by all the fighters involved. The thing is, Eddie's a fighter. Eddie wants to fight. He's trying to find ways to win the fight. But unfortunately for him in that scenario, he was in a situation where he was throwing punches to an area that was illegal. Now, his opponent was turning his head away because he didn't have a good defense on that side. So he's prying his chin up, he's turning his head away, and Eddie was hitting kind of base of the neck, base of the skull, illegal target areas. It was a good decision by the referee. Unfortunate for Eddie. I hope he gets the rematch. The thing that is frustrating for the fans watching, though, is that we know that Eddie wants to continue fighting. Lapicus could have probably continued fighting. He was probably fine. But the rule is there, and he lent into the rule. And, this is unfortunately where it goes from being fighting to sport. We can't, if it's just fighting, there are inherent dangers to that, which we obviously try and take out some of the really, really dangerous stuff to make it safer for people to compete on a regular basis and to be legitimate as a sport. But then it has to become a sport to an extent. And when it's a sport, there are rules, and the rules of engagement need to be understood. And there was a lack of understanding of the rules of engagement for Peter Yan. That's why he was disqualified. it was a lack of understanding of the rules of engagement for Eddie here, because he should know in that scenario that is an illegal target area, and whether his opponent's trying to exploit it or whether he's not landing the shots very hard, or it doesn't matter. Like the rules are defined there, and you've got to know the rules. You've got to play to the rules. There's a lot of things you can do that go unsaid. There are a lot of things like that. When I've broken John Jones down, I've covered a few of them. There are a lot of things that you can do within the rules of mixed martial arts that people don't do. And a lot of them are vicious and mean and very damaging. Like, look at the oblique kick. You can really damage someone's knee with that. I love the shot because this is not a tickling contest. The only time we have to be real cautious of the rules is when it comes to like illegal target areas and illegal strikes, because there's a reason for a lot of them. The downward elbow strike, I would take that out in a heartbeat. We're going to get into the main event in a minute. I would take out knees to the head as well. I know that knees to the head of a downed opponent. I know that Goddard and I, we had a kind of a joking, back and forth disagreement about it. But I honestly don't mind knees to the head of a downed opponent most of the time, because there's not a massive amount of wind up to the shots. I don't think they're particularly more dangerous than standing knees to the head in a lot of scenarios. And I think they avoid stagnant positions. The downward elbow rule I don't agree with, because the target areas that would be really damaging for an elbow are the same for any kind of elbow. It's the back of the head and the spine. And a downward elbow to the shoulder or to the side of the head or whatever. John Jones in mount against Matt Hamill, playing the rules right to the very edge. He landed a downward elbow, which he was disqualified for, but that would have been no more damaging than any other elbow that he would have thrown. So, I'm not saying the rules need to be examined, and we need to really kind of figure out what is applicable and not. But unfortunately for Eddie in that scenario, same as Peter Yan, same as Eric Anders, which should have been a disqualification. Like, you've got to know the rules. You've got to know the rules. I love Eddie, and I hope he gets back in there soon and gets another fight. And I would like to see him get that fight against Lapicus again. But it's a part of the sport. You kind of Eddie's a fighter. He's the underground king. He wants to be in there scrapping with people. But at the same time, in order to be successful in professional sports, you've got to know what those what you've got to know the rules, and you've got to play them to to the best of your ability. It's a part of it, and that's unfortunate for Eddie. Okay, let's get into the main event. Right. So obviously DJ coming in again against Moraes as a favourite. Now Moraes is the taller, rangier fighter. The thing that he starts off, he does very well, is he manages the distance between the two of them to the point where DJ always feels like he's slightly outside. And you know what was nice is on this same card, we had Rodtang fighting, and that was like immediately those two guys of a similar build, immediately they walked straight into striking range and they stood there and they were trading punches and low kicks. And I mean, there was venom in the shots, there was no backing out, but the understanding and use of range was so different, because the difference obviously is that Johnson's got the opportunity to level change if he wants to, and in order for him to be successful in this fight, he has to negate the reach of Moraes, so he has to close him down, and either get his hands on him in a wrestling sense or land his hands on him in a striking sense, but both of them require him to get close to his opponent. So Moraes, being the taller fighter, the first the whole time in the fight pretty much, the range between them was accentuated by Moraes by, he'd jump in and then he'd move out and he'd circle, and his lateral movement was excellent. It forced DJ to really try and paint him into a corner, which is difficult in a circle. You can see DJ reaching and missing and getting a little frustrated that, there is a distance between the two of them that he can't seem to negate very well, but Moraes is able to sting him with some low kicks. And DJ's got good footwork. He does figure it out. And he doesn't waste his energy by following people too much either. Like in this scenario here, watch, you're going to see Moraes skirt out to his right, and DJ is going to allow him to do it. He's going to miss the shot, but then as Moraes circles back, instead of DJ following him, I mean, we see it so many times. Instead of DJ following him and taking the outside track of the cage instead of maintaining the inside, he cuts straight across to the opposite direction. and just cuts him back off. So he immediately reapplies the pressure, but still struggles to get in range, still struggles to close him down. Now, in the first round, he does manage to get him into a choke point up against the fence, and that's the point where he lands a knee, which looks like it hurts Moraes. Here it is. Close him down, little knee to the midsection. And the reason I think that hurts Moraes is because of what happens with his right arm. So let's just back up. So this is the most common direction for Moraes to skirt out and to find space. He's really good at using this direction to his advantage. And oftentimes he'll do a little bit what Dominic Cruz will do, and he'll bounce back in this direction before he goes again, just to kind of shift his opponent going in the opposite direction. Okay, DJ closes him down, gets him against the post, and he gets that single necktie. So as he throws the overhand right, and then he comes straight up and he goes single necktie and drives him into the fence with his forearm, with his left forearm. Okay, so we're watching the lead knee of DJ. It's going to come up and hit Moraes in the midsection, and then you're going to watch the arm of Moraes, which at this current time is kind of hanging on the outside of the arm, the single necktie arm of DJ. When the knee lands, you're going to see this arm immediately. It's going to come into the midsection and it's going to guard. And that's a good tell that someone's been hurt to the body. Knee, and then the arm comes across, and you can kind of see his body's it's almost like it's just been deflated. That's where he is. Because the knee's just knocked all the wind out of him. So now he's brought this arm across his midsection, and he's going to run DJ into the fence because he's got no air in his lungs. And you can see him still crouched over and still bent, and he's still covering that body with his arm, because the last thing he wants is another knee to land to the midsection. So DJ comes up to the head, and he just catches that one before Moraes smashes him into the fence and closes that distance down. So you can see that other knee that comes up there. It kind of comes up to the side. It's not going to land to the midsection, which is a saving grace for Moraes. Okay. He's going to clear his head, he's going to get his lungs back underneath him, and then he's going to break and he's going to clear. But this whole time you can see how he's compressing DJ up against the fence. Okay, now he's back out in space. He throws a kick and he's backing up and he's utilizing this space, but then DJ throws a kick, Moraes catches it and runs him to the floor, which was really nice. And DJ has got such good scrambling ability. We saw that in the Cejudo fight. But so as you can see here, I mean, this is, for most fighters, this is a foregone conclusion that you've been taken down. Moraes is controlling this arm here, which means that at this current time, there's no base for DJ to fall onto. There's nothing to stop him landing. But DJ manages to hustle that arm free. He posts it, and then he manages to get his foot out, which is just incredible athleticism. He manages to get his foot out, and he continually jogs across. He's moving in that direction towards the fence, because if he can get himself up against the fence, there's no space to fall back into. I am talking at full speed here. I apologize if I'm losing you. But what you'll see Moraes do with this left hand is he puts it across the back of DJ's head and he keeps him down. He holds him down. So it's another pressure point. Like, watch this. He goes over the top of his head. Now there's pressure going down into the back of DJ's head, which he's having to counter for in the arm that's based on the canvas. And at the same time, Moraes is elevating the leg that he's got control of, which is nullifying the base foot. In these scenarios, there are so many things going on, and there's a real beauty in being able to manipulate another human being that's of a similar size and strength by understanding levers and pressure points and how to distribute your own weight and understand where their bases are and what you need to remove in order to dismantle their takedown defense, their ability to get back up to their feet. I often talk about the difference between a technical understanding and a fundamental understanding of something, and Henry Cejudo is a good example of this. Like when he fought DJ, he shot him for a takedown, hooked the outside leg, outside reap, nice low outside reap as well, and took him down. And DJ was able to scramble, got back to his feet. The second time he attempted it, I think it was the third round, he shot and he went for the same takedown, but DJ was this time aware of it and stepped out of it. And then Cejudo immediately switched and ankle picked him and finished the takedown. And that is a good example of someone that they've not got a technical understanding. It's like, okay, I'm going to go for this technique, and then if this fails, then I go on to this technique or this technique. He's understanding the base and the levers and the balance of his opponent, and just basically dismantling it with the understanding that he's got of that physiology. That's what's happening here with Moraes. He's problem solving on the spot in the moment with someone that's excellent at scrambling. And he runs him to the canvas. But as they get close to the fence, you can see DJ still doing a good job of basing, and you can see how far away he moves that hand as well. That further reinforces that base that he's got. There's a quick look where the fence is. So Moraes, having this foot elevated here, sees the vulnerability, and being a jiu-jitsu guy, he sits back, fires this left leg underneath, and sits back. And as soon as he does this, the aim is to throw this foot over and into what's some called the honey hole. It's the space between your two legs, so they feed the leg in, and then they hook the opposite hamstring, and that gives them control over the hip, and it also keeps the knee bent, so they can use that heel hook position. They can attack the foot and the ankle and the knee. Okay, but DJ, being good at everything in mixed martial arts as he is, as the leg comes up, he feels it. He senses this contact on the back of his elbow, and he shuts that down. See how he pulls that back just to stop this leg coming over. So now Moraes is in a position where that space that he wants to put his leg for the leg lock is no longer open, and DJ now starts to square back up into him. DJ knows exactly what he's doing because he knows that this foot's still very vulnerable. If Moraes can get this foot through this space, he's going to be able to twist on that ankle and do a lot of damage to the knee with the heel hook. So DJ's, you can see him here, he's keeping this back as best he can. That's his guard. That's his first line of defense against this heel hook. Moraes is messing with his butterfly hook on the far side here. Nice short shot from DJ on the inside. Let me just play this through. But this battle here, this bracing right now is because DJ knows that he's vulnerable, and now Moraes kicks the leg over. Now you can see he gets what he wants to do. Still doesn't get it clear because DJ manages to keep his arm in. Like as it comes over, look, DJ keeps his arm in, so he has some fight there, but he's still collapsed down because as you see the pressure comes over from the leg, it folds DJ's knee in and collapses him to the canvas. And now there you can see that's where the foot's vulnerable. So what Moraes now wants to do is hook around the heel hook, and then twist. And what you're doing is you basically, this leg here is bracing the hip and the upper leg in a position where you can then twist the bones in the lower leg in through a range of motion which is counter to the position of the rest of the body, and that's what does the damage to the knee. So that's what's going on here. DJ scrambling, good scrambling as you would expect from DJ. Good sub defense. I mean, he's been trained by Matt Hume, who's going to be a leg lock specialist, and Moraes is able to run him over and gets the top position. And then this last sort of minute or so is jostling for position. There's a bit of guard passing to half guard. DJ's able to recover his guard. A few small shots land by Moraes, but largely, I mean, this round I would say was for Moraes. Aside from that good knee to the body from DJ, he was chasing. He was taken down. He was attacked with an ankle lock, and then Moraes was all over him for the last minute of the round. A really strong showing from Moraes. Okay, second round, same thing happens. Moraes establishes the range and the distance between the two. But I want to point out a pattern to you in this round because there comes a point about 90 seconds in where DJ changes his tact and he decides he's going to start level changing, because at this point he's trying to cut him off and hit him. He's landing low kicks, but Moraes does such a good job of creating angles for himself and using feints to get himself out of claustrophobic positions that DJ there's a little bit of desperation now. He's starting to miss with stuff, and he's starting to get a bit frustrated that he can't close distance down. So the problem-solving DJ then switches to level changes. Now, as said before, this is the pattern I want to point out to you. Moraes uses this angle to escape a lot of the time. You can see him do it here. Loads of footwork, loads of movement, skirts along, and then he'll use feints and stuff to like just manage the distance between them. But next time around, he gets a level change off DJ. Here we go. Level change. Recognizes it, posts his forearm on the back, gets his legs out of the way. Look at that little switch. This leg goes from being here, being very vulnerable, to switching right back. I mean, it's really nice fast footwork, takedown defense, and there are things in the way for DJ to get through. There's a forearm across his neck, so he's read that level change from DJ. He gets his space, peels out to the side again, and then DJ's back in that same cycle. Now the feeling you're gonna get from Moraes, I'm gonna pause it here for a moment. The feeling you get from Moraes at this point is like, okay, now DJ is looking to level change. So what are my counters to this level change? First of all, I don't want to get taken down because that's going to be on his terms. He's scoring points. If the fight's going to the ground, Moraes is going to be the one that's doing it. So at this point, although he's not concerned about going to the floor, he's looking at what his defensive options are. So footwork being the first one. He's used footwork. He's used his frames to stop DJ getting too close. Now he starts to think, right, now I'm expecting the level change. I can look for my uppercut and I can look for my center channel striking. So that's what we get here. I'll just hit this slow-mo so you can see it. He's going to throw the uppercut, but so he's expecting DJ to level change onto this uppercut here. Moraes is moving, he's on his toes, and he's going to fire an uppercut here. But then peels off because he doesn't land it. But he can feel that DJ's pressure into level change. Again, he defends a takedown. Like, think of this from Moraes' position. He's feeling pressure now from DJ. And it's not a striking pressure because that's got a different range to it. This is a range where DJ can reach and grab. So Moraes is even more on his toes. He doesn't mind too much standing square because he's expecting a level change, but he's using those angles laterally to create the space for him, which forces DJ to continue walking forward towards him. And as I said earlier, DJ's got good footwork. He's very good if he's chasing you and you cut an angle, he'll just cut across and then put you back on a fence panel. He is very good at that. But at this stage where now he's trying to close distance for a takedown, Moraes is able to hold him off and move away, and be able to an extent, be able to predict when that level change is coming based on the range of DJ. So we get good footwork, we get good movement from Moraes, but then he looks for a flying knee. And this was almost like, I'm going to catch DJ level changing, I'm going to catch him with this flying knee here. But DJ smothers it and catches it. It was kind of like what I was talking about on the War Room with Bader and Machida. There's a clip where Bader level changes against Phil Davis and he level changes onto a knee. But because he hits the knee at a point where it's not fully expressed itself, it's not quite as dangerous. That's what happens here. So the level change happens at the perfect time because he managed just to smother the knee before it's really gathered too much power. I mean, it just kind of bounced off the side of his head, but he catches the foot. But it's that uppercut that does it. And again, it's the insistence that a level change has to happen. And we were talking about knees to the head. That fight may not have finished under the unified rules, which aren't very unified. There's the knee, the flying knee for the level change he was expecting, because he's expecting DJ to throw that punch and then go straight into a shot. But DJ obviously recognizes the knee and pulls out, gets out of the way. He's able to catch the bottom of the leg, to which point Moraes turns his knee down to basically, it's like a limp leg, basically. He limp legs out of it, spins through, tries a spinning back fist, but then as he's backing up, he throws a short uppercut on the inside here, and it goes right across the jaw of DJ, which takes his legs away, and he drops. He's pushed to the canvas a little bit with that forearm, and as he's scrambling back to his feet, not quite clear. He's not. You can see by his body he's scrambling, but he's not quite clear here. He comes up to be in a position where look at that frame. So this is DJ's underhook here. So Moraes has got an overhook, and he's built a frame. And then as DJ starts to come up, Perfectly timed. Jogs himself into position, look, so his weight's underneath him so he can throw the knee. And there it is. Nice finish. It was kind of unfortunate that DJ was talking a week ago, was it, about about unifying the rules. I mean, that was a lovely timed knee, and I don't think that was any more dangerous than any other shot that he could have thrown at that point. When it comes to kicks, that is dangerous. But yeah, nice framework, overhook, brings his feet in, nice knee to the chin, and then that's it. Game over. I'll tell you what we'll do while we're here. That's the line above the ears, so anything below that is back of the head. You get to see the same thing on the referee here as the referee comes in. There we go. That's not very good. There we go. Like, there's a lot of striking area there. I know I'm jumping back to the other fight. There's a lot of striking area there, but definitely those shots from Eddie were illegal shots. I know I've just jumped back there. It's still on my mind. It's a frustrating situation for Eddie because, anyway, DJ, unfortunate. It was a difficult fight for him to deal with it, especially because people are expecting him to do so well because he's one of the greatest of all time. You can't underestimate these young kids though that are coming up. Moraes is a skilled, talented fighter that's proven himself in that division. Knows those rules very well. Played to the rules very well. Also managed the range like a pro. It's not easy to manage range like that against DJ. And it kind of seems a bit like DJ's kryptonite. You go back to the Dominic Cruz fight, and it's a bit similar. Struggles to pin someone down that's high on their toes and moving all the time, and does start to reach and make themselves a bit vulnerable when they do decide they want to get the takedown. Great game planning, great fight, great performance all round by Moraes. Going back to the Eddie Alvarez one, I hope they remake that fight. I'm just going to skip forward here. I can get right back to that one. I just want to touch on it one more time because I know I dwelled on it a bit earlier, but yeah, I mean, he's not. He just can't be catching the ear because the ear's so close to his own face. It's unfortunate because Eddie created an opportunity for Lapicus to play to the rules. That was definitely an illegal one. You can see where the position of the thumb is. So what's most likely landing is the inside of the knuckles, which I would imagine will hurt a little bit. But the point still stands. It's an illegal shot. Whether the fighter's playing up to the rules or not, it's the circumstance. I'll give you one more quick story. I know we're 40 minutes in here, but one of my last fights outside of the UFC was in a tournament in Japan, a Cage Force tournament. And I was fighting a guy that had always finished people in the first round. He was a lethal dude, really dangerous. But I did feel like he would have a drop-off as soon as the first round came to an end. So my first round in that fight, which was the final of the tournament, my plan was just to get him out of the first round. So the whole first round, I kind of coast. I don't do a great deal in the round. My game plan really was to kind of smother and stifle and stay safe. So then I'd have 2 rounds to really put pressure on him when the psychology of the fight is starting to grate on him as well. And unfortunately, as he transitioned across the cage, I threw an inside low kick and it slid up the inside of his leg and caught him in the groin, and he hit the deck and didn't get back up again until they brought the stretcher in. And I knew in that moment, I was like he is playing to the rules. Like, there was even a point when he started to get back up and his corner team shouted something out to him and he just laid back down again. And he knew he was playing to the rules. He was playing to the circumstance, and it is frustrating. And I got on the phone to Cage Warriors straight away after that and said, "Hey, you've got a fight next weekend. Get me on it. Just find me an opponent," because I was so angry and frustrated. But it is what it is. It's when you fighting, there are no rules. In a fight, there are no rules. You do what you on your conscience are okay with, and you do what you deem is appropriate for whatever issue you've got with the person or people that you're fighting. as soon as it crosses over to professional sports, the challenge for people that are instinctively fighters is to rein that back in. And is to not get frustrated when someone just doesn't want to fight as much as you do, because it does happen. And Eddie has been in this since before there was money. You know, he's been in this for so long that you can tell he loves it, and you can tell it's so much a part of his identity that it was going to be very frustrating for him to walk away from it. Now, on the flip side, I don't really know a great deal about Lapicus outside of him, outside of his skill set. But this was an opportunity for him to fight Eddie Alvarez, which most fighters on the rise, they want that name on their record. But Eddie closed him down quick, took him down quick, and tied him up, and then was given an opportunity to put a win on his record, and then get a paycheck, get the win bonus, and then have the fight remade, and on another day. Like, he basically did 90 seconds work and has cashed in because Eddie gave him an opportunity to do that. And I'm frustrated for Eddie, and I want him to get back on top. I love him and his old team, but that was a situation where he created an opportunity for his opponent to win, in a very frustrating way. I hope I've made a lot of sense. I don't think I have, but there were great fights. Go and check out the rest of the card. Rod Tang's performance was absolute gold. Williams gave him everything, but just was not enough. Great card. Congratulations to ONE FC getting on TNT and putting on a great show. And I hope Eddie and DJ get back on track very soon. Catch you next time.